Actually, if you could do roll call and then read the public notice.
Commissioner Sukla,
Here.
Commissioner Lambert,
Here.
Administrator Bruner,
Here.
Attorney Baxter is,
Here.
Commissioner Tell is absent, and County Clerk and Recorder Kim Purcell. Notice is hereby given that the Montezuma County Board of Commissioners will hold a public hearing for the purpose of reviewing and determining high-impact and special use permit applications submitted by Kinder Morgan CO2 Company, agents Andy Wagant and Ecosphere Environmental Services for the construction and operation of a CO2 well, CX-14, and associated gathering lines on property owned by Kinder Morgan CO2 Company at 12390 Road BB, Pleasant View, Colorado, east of Road 12, south of Road B, located in Section 10, Township 38, Range 18, NMPM. The hearing will be held Monday, April 4th, 2016, beginning at 1:30 p.m. in the Commissioners' Hearing Room, Montezuma County District Courthouse, 109 West Main, Cortez, Colorado. Interested persons may attend and give input. Information may be obtained from the Planning Office, Room 305, District Courthouse, Cortez, Colorado, or accessed online at http://montezumacounty.org, Web Departments Planning. You may also contact the Planning Department at 970-565-2801 with questions. This file can be inspected in the Planning Department during regular office hours. Dated this 4th day of March 2016. Kim Purcell, Clerk, Board of County Commissioners, Montezuma County, Colorado. Published in the Cortez Journal on Tuesday, March 8th, 2016.
All right, thank you, Kim. I guess we'll get started with our Planning and Zoning Director, Leanne, if you can give us a little bit of information about it, and then we'll open it up to the public.
This is a proposed well on the property owned by Kinder Morgan. They were originally going to do a different project on that's located just south of Road BB.
What do you mean they were going to originally do a different?
It was planned for they had purchased the project or the property to do a different project.
Okay.
But they're actually doing a well right now called CX-14. It's your standard CO2 well. The pipelines, the associated pipelines to take it to the compressor station have not been. I don't think that they have since then. If you have, correct me if I'm wrong. Not. They're planning on using the existing right-of-ways that they have. There may be some deviation from those right-of-ways, which they would go in and get easements or whatnot.
How far is that to go from the well to the down these
2 to 3 miles.
2 to 3 miles? Okay.
But it's within, most of it would be within existing right-of-ways. So that hasn't been submitted to us yet as far as that goes. The Planning Commission met the very first public notice that we sent out for the meeting on February 11th was sent out with the Road CC address, which was what we had on our county information. So what we did is we tabled that discussion, sent out a new notice with a corrected address. Reconvened on the 25th, met with the Planning Commission. Again, they didn't see any need at that time they felt it was at the discretion of the private property owners to negotiate with Kinder Morgan as far as easements and whatever monetary and other agreements were made between them. It was, at that meeting, unanimously voted for an approval. There were several contingencies to that motion.
I see on that. Does the chairman not vote?
No, not in the Planning Commission unless he chooses to, which is announced at the beginning of the meeting. Prior to any review of any applications, he'll announce that he will be voting that night or will not be.
And it's night by night?
It's done at his discretion.
That seems odd.
So. As long as they have.
Who came up with that?
That's how it's always been.
Does that have to do
I've
with
been there.
Odd number of people at the meeting and things like that?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I was just noticing because it didn't have an yay or a nay with him. It had his chair, and then apparently you had one that was absent.
We did.
Okay.
He ended up coming in later. He was late.
Okay.
that night. Commissioner Boyd was late getting there. But there was a lot of discussion about it, actually. But the Planning Commission, I think they felt, like, again, let me stress that they think that it's at the discretion of the private property owners to be able to make the negotiations with Kinder Morgan privately. There was the contingencies made or requested about monitoring for CO2 leaks, H2S leaks between the Hayden property, which is right here. And originally they'd wanted to put one here and they moved that station over to the east. So they accommodated that part of it. But the contingency was made that there's monitoring actually at the Hayden home and at some point in between the Hayden's property and the proposed Wells property, as well as there's irrigation which runs along BB. So if there's any damage there to that irrigation during the drilling operations or any construction operations, that Kinder Morgan will go in and repair and mitigate whatever happens with during the drilling.
So this well has been moved because of the Haydens.
Well, yeah, to give them a little more distance from where it was originally. And it wasn't this well, it was the booster station.
Yeah, I remember that conversation. That was a year or two ago. That
Correct.
their home's right there on that line or somewhere.
So yeah, so in that same spirit, everything's been moved farther away. The Haydens were here, the original first Planning Commission meeting, and I believe that they were okay with what happened because they didn't arrive at the second meeting. So I believe that were they? There you are. But I believe that
They hide well.
yeah, he does. I believe that the concerns were mitigated. There's quite a few of them. So.
Okay, you guys have anything to add to that before I open it up?
That pretty much covers it, I'd say.
Okay. All right, well, at this time, we'll open this up to public comment. If you would come up to the podium, state your name and your address, and voice, let us know what you think about this proposal from Kinder Morgan.
My name's Ellen Foster. I live on County Road T in Dolores. And I have three major concerns about this permit application. If you could go to the first map on page, the one below.
This one here?
Yeah. And
One question, Owen, did you voice these concerns at the public and at the planning and zoning?
not exactly, no.
Okay, all right.
And if I could use the pointer?
I can't reach it.
Thank you. So, if you look at this map here, this is the Hayden's irrigation water line right here. And it goes to right there where their house is. Sorry, I'm kind of shaky.
No, it's all right.
Me too.
Okay, so this is the booster station. This is the well pad. And this is the irrigation line right in there. So my concern is that the well pad is too close to their irrigation line, right on their irrigation line, almost. So Kinder Morgan's road use plan states, quote, "During the location construction phase of this project, the initial mobilization of the construction equipment will take approximately 7 equipment transport loads. The brunt of the truck use over time will consist of approximately 200 belly dump loads of gravel for the all-weather surfacing of the CX-14 well location. After the initial surge of trucks, the rig will be moved in, which will consist of approximately 56 semi-loads." End quote. And then, of course, when the drilling is finished, there'll be 56 more semi-loads to move the rig out. So all 319 semi-loads will drive right over their water line, right there. This is the access off of Road BB. So if the line develops a leak, how quickly will Kinder Morgan fix it? If they're actually actively drilling at the time, will they stop drilling so they can fix the water line? And if we
Is
could
that
go,
the first concern then? The water line?
yeah, mainly.
Okay.
I'm not quite done with that one yet, though. But if we could go to the next map, it's a little bit larger. So this map, north goes this way on this map. So here's the fence line to the booster station. Here's the water line, and here's the edge of the well pad. So according to their scale, there's 15 feet between the well pad and the fence line. And their water line is right in there. So if there ever were a problem with the water line, well, you'd practically have to tear down the fence to get in there to fix it. So I think it's a pretty legitimate concern that the well pad is too close to the water line. And according to state statute CRS 37-86-102, any person owning a water right or conditional water right shall be entitled to a right-of-way through the lands which lie between the point of diversion and the point of use for the purpose of transporting water for beneficial use in accordance with said water right. Colorado law at all levels recognizes and protects the rights of a water right owner to cross property of others for the purpose of diverting water. This includes the right to inspect, operate, maintain, and make repairs. So, I would suggest that the well pad be moved south to provide sufficient access to the water line. And I know that this location has already been approved by COGCC. But I think maybe they didn't look at that. And the driveway access, if we could go back to the previous map, the driveway access right here should be legally moved to the east of Empire Electric Substation.
Why do you say? Why do you think that?
Because if COGCC does not move the well pad, the only way to prevent all those trucks from driving over their water line is to move the access over here and have them come around the side here, which they already are doing. Actually, I was just out there this morning. They have fenced off this here. They don't use this as an access, and they have graveled an access over here. So that makes this map totally false. I mean, I don't know what their agreement is with the Road and Bridge Department, but apparently they've applied for a driveway, I'm not sure what you call it, driveway permit. So if the permit is for over here, and their map and their formal application shows it over there, why are they using a driveway access over here? So at the very, very least, I think the permit should include a contingency that says that Kinder Morgan will fix the irrigation line immediately should damage occur. And at the February 25th Planning and Zoning meeting, Bob Clayton assured us that the water line was in no danger. And if that's true, Kinder Morgan should not object to such a contingency. So my second concern is air quality. And I did mention this at Planning and Zoning. I think that Kinder Morgan should provide an air monitor to the Haydens that not only sounds an alarm but also records all results. It should detect CO2, H2S, and VOCs like benzene, toluene, ethylbenzene, and xylene. I think that Kinder Morgan should pay for weekly independent monitoring with a FLIR camera, an infrared camera, with continuous optical gas imaging. And I mentioned that at Planning and Zoning also, and Bob Clayton said that, oh, those cameras only can detect heat. Well, that's not true. The model GF320, which is the industry standard, can detect 20 different gases. And I would bet that Kinder Morgan already has one. And the Haydens should be notified well in advance of all flaring and venting events. 2 weeks advance notice would be reasonable. They should be given the option to stay in a hotel and have their animals moved to another location, all at Kinder Morgan's expense. And these 3 items should be included as contingencies in the high impact permit. My third concern is the vague language used in permits. For example, item 27 in the threshold standard summary states, minor amounts of H2S may occasionally be released during drilling. Well, how much is minor? And how often is occasionally? The high impact permit should state what is acceptable and what recourse the Haydens have if those levels are exceeded. They should be given advance notice of possible H2S releases, and they should be given the option to stay in a hotel and have their animals moved to another location, all at Kinder Morgan's expense. Item 27 says that Kinder Morgan will temporarily exceed and mitigate this odor standard. Well, H2S is much more serious than an odor. Could kill you. So the county's high impact permit application should be revised to include specific requirements to protect the health and safety of tax-paying voting citizens.
Thank you, Ellen. Is there anybody else that would like to make a comment? Okay.
Gayla Pock, 7672 County Road, CC, Pleasant View. The land use code in section 1201, general section, says one of the major objectives of the comprehensive land use plan is to protect the rural character of the county through the enactment of development regulations appropriate for the rural areas. Obviously, the land use code has failed in this situation. There has been under construction a booster station on this approximately 590 acres that Kinder Morgan owns. It's been under construction forever. And now they're going to put a well on it, and I'm wondering just what else they're going to put on it. I see this as developing into a major industrial park. This is not maintaining the rural character of the area. The Hayden property has already suffered major value decline because of what they're next to, and I anticipate this will continue. If you believe in personal property rights, and I believe you do, then you recognize that the Haydens have some personal property rights. It isn't just Kinder Morgan that has personal property rights. The Haydens bought land in a rural area, and they should be allowed to live in a rural area, not next to an industrial park, which I can't believe this is not going to soon be. It already looks pretty industrial. At this point, the only ethical thing that Kinder Morgan can do is to buy out the Haydens. And not at the price that their land is worth now, because it's not worth much, but at a price that will allow the Haydens to buy a comparable property someplace else and give them some money to move and get settled in a new place, and hopefully some compensation for the stress of actually having to move, because moving is always stressful. There's simply no other ethical thing that Kinder Morgan can do. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Strayton?
I'm Tom Hayden. I live at 24990 Road 12. I've got a few questions. I tried to get answered at the P&Z, and nobody would speak up on them. I would like to know who is responsible for myself and my family's safety, why that rig is there, why they're drilling. What if something happens? Are there things set up for this? Are there laws or something that's going to cover me? And I'd also like to know.
You're asking a question, and you
Yes.
want an answer. So,
Yes, I want an answer to who's responsible. And I also want to know.
Can I answer the question?
Okay, this is part of the question. I'm not done.
Oh, so it's more than one question.
I also want to know how this is going to be done. Do they have something set right now, or there already plans for emergencies? You're not used to drilling this close to homes, I know. I've worked on rigs when I was a kid. I wore H2H packs on my side. I had to slide down the Geronimo lines to get away. And what we did was we just looked at the windsock and ran the other way. But we were all young, fit kids. I've got some medical issues. I can't just get up and run. So I would like to know what your procedures are, and what have you put in place to eliminate hazards, like the gas blowing at my house, if it does. I know the wind typically blows to the west, but we get a lot of east winds, and they come straight out of the east where that rig will be, and they come pretty strong. I'm not trying to stop anything from going on this project. I just want to know who I need to trust. Because I'll tell you right now, I don't have a lot of trust for Kinder Morgan. I've been lied to. I've been cheated. That pump station that's there right now, their engineer sat in the P&Z meeting and said, you can stand next to that machine and carry on a conversation. It is not loud. I can hear it all day and all night right now. And it's over 1,000 foot away from me. If I was standing next to that pump, I guarantee I could not hear a conversation. So, I feel like I'm having to trust somebody with my life that I don't trust. So I want to see some procedures. I think this should be done on any drilling rig. Anywhere they're poking a hole, they should have procedures set up for emergencies that don't happen, for winds that come the other way. I want to make sure all bases are covered. And I think I owe that much. Usually when I ask a question in here, my answer is, I'll check into it. And you hear that too. So yeah, that is my question. I'd like to know what you're going to do and how you're going to do it and who's responsible.
Okay.
I felt at the last meeting that they put a lot of contingencies in there that would help. This is the first time I've heard that.
Yeah, but that's not set in stone yet, right?
No, nothing's set in stone yet.
Okay.
This is the stone. But I didn't know anything until now about the sound of that building. Had I known, we would have definitely investigated that. I'm sure, I don't know if you guys have been contacted about that.
I haven't contacted anybody.
Okay. I my first thing is I can't fix something that's.
And I don't know who to contact. Who do I go to with problems?
You're more than welcome to contact me
Okay.
anytime. And I will make sure to get a hold.
Well, when
get a
I
hold of
when
them.
I was asking about responsibilities in here last week, you told me that you guys were not the people, that it was the county commissioners that issue the permit, so you could not be responsible for all this stuff.
We can't enforce something that hasn't been permitted. We don't have, that's why we come here to put these.
Okay, well, that's my fear, is that this is gonna keep going down the line
No,
and never be taken care of.
And actually what we put in, which you're more than welcome to look at these, we did, 5 very specific, we recommended 5 very specific contingencies.
Suggested,
Right?
yeah.
I mean, that's what I can do. But
Okay.
these gentlemen, they're more than welcome to add or take away from, whatever we recommend.
Okay.
But I did put in, the air monitoring, at your residence, as well as providing monitoring between your residence and the well, during construction times. I did not, go as in-depth as Ms. Foster said.
No, nobody
I
does.
didn't. But I also said that they would be responsible for repairing any leaks or damages, within a close proximity of your area. That's what the motion was by the planning commission.
But no timeline.
But there was no, I'm getting there. But there was no, I didn't put a specific timeline because of the fact, and if you do recall, there was the conversation about once drilling begins, it's really hard to just stop it, and apparently it's next to impossible to stop it, if I remember what Bob Clayton said correctly, that you need to keep going until drilling's done, and then you can go back in and mitigate, that it would actually cause more damage to go backwards and then forwards again than just mitigate.
Can I speak to the fear about crossing the pipeline? Can I speak to that? Is that my allowed to do that?
Yeah.
About which?
Crossing the pipeline, damaging your pipeline?
Okay, well, I've got something on that later. Let's finish
You wanna
this.
hear the rest of these?
That's fine.
Yeah, let's finish this first part. I don't wanna jump around, cause I'll forget what we were talking about, and I'll go home and go, shit.
I don't want you to do that. And then we did make sure the road CC was the designated truck route coming in, with those trucks. And then as well as, which something that wasn't brought up was, notifying traffic, both directions on that road, which,
Okay, and the
as
drive,
soon as they knew when they were going to be having flaring operations or releases, as soon as possible. And again, you know, Andy, Mr. Wygant had explained that there are times that they don't know a week in advance, but they would do it at the soonest possible time that they have knowledge of that, even if it's prior to 2 weeks.
do you not flare when you need to? When you're drilling a hole, you hit something you don't want, you flare it, right? So how do you plan that?
I think she just said that, if I heard you right, that they can't give you an exact time.
Well, you
but
can't give
they
any
can do-
time. If it's gonna, something that you hit some gas or hydrocarbons that that aren't acceptable, that come up, you flare them. You did 30, 40 years ago when I was on rigs.
And as far as, and I guess this is more a question for John, I think it's way out of the commissioner's purview possibly to require Kinder Morgan to mitigate certain things like purchasing of property.
I don't,
We can't do that.
no, and I have nothing to do with that right now. I am gonna put my property up for sale, but I don't know if it'll be sellable, so.
And I don't know if the commissioners decide they wanna go into more detail on these. I tried to get, everything in there that was brought up.
Okay, so who is responsible for the safety of that project? For the gases, if the wrong hydrocarbons come up, if they kill half the neighborhood, who?
Why don't you, is that your last question? Because if there's somebody.
No, that's my first,
Okay, and then, is there more questions? What I'd like to do is get.
yes,
all
I
the
have a whole
questions.
list of questions.
I don't want to take all day, so if you would give us the questions, and then we will have them come up and we'll address the question.
Okay, so
We'll
let me
answer
run
the
through my questions then.
Okay.
Okay, I want to know who's responsible. I want to know how this will be done. Procedures, safety manuals or something. I'd like to know. I'm right there. I'm just as close as the guys working there. I need to be protected just like they do. And that usually doesn't happen. Okay. Okay, who will monitor the air? Who will monitor the air, the hydrocarbons, the chemicals? And who's responsible for that if their monitors don't work? I want to know where the flare is going to be. When I was around drilling rigs, the flare was up on the boom. It flared off the derrick. I believe somebody told me they flare off the ground now? Okay, so where does that gas go? How far off the ground? Okay, I want to know how my irrigation line's going to be protected. I'll just go a little bit into that right now. It's at the toe of the slope. Anybody who knows anything about structural knows that if you put 2,000 tons right here, it's not going to stop because you have a line drawn. That's going to bear on the dirt, depending on the angle, how far out. So it's going to be a good 90 foot out. And I don't know if that's enough to, Schedule 40 pipe is pretty tough stuff. It's only 3 foot down. I'm more worried about the trucks driving over it, direct pressure on it, than the bearing of the pad.
How
that
big of a
is-
line is it?
It's only a 2-inch line.
And how many acres do you irrigate with it?
Right now, I'm only using it on 6 or 8 acres, but I rotate it and
Is it
I have
an M&I
I
tap?
have
Is that what
plans.
it is,
Yes,
or is
right now.
Oh, it is an M&I tap, okay. Okay.
Okay. Okay, last week we talked about the access road. I believe Ken and Morgan stated that it was going to be the same access they use for the pump station, which is not where this is drawing on the map. It's a good 200 yards to the east.
And I believe they're working with Ken and Rob right now in that regard as far
Because
as.
that would help. That would eliminate driving all that over my pipe. Because the pipe ends, the vault is before
That
then.
road has nothing to do with this location. That road's for the pump station.
Okay, so you're not going to use that for this?
Correct.
Okay, because last week, or last meeting, I understood we were.
We probably ought to ask you all to come up, just because we record these, and we've got microphones up here for audio.
And I believe that was just temporarily.
That's a temporary easement that we have through Empire in order to build the pump station. It will be moved to the current location you see on the map as soon as we're done with it. As soon as we're done with all construction.
As soon as the pump station is done.
Yes, sir.
And that
Okay.
road going in, as far as I recall, is going to be built to road and bridge standards, so it would be able to withstand truck traffic.
Yes.
Yeah, another thing about my irrigation line, I went to drain it this year, and not very much water came out. I got my bill, and I used 3 times the water that I used the year before, and I physically probably used 1/3 of the water I used the year before. I have a pond that I fill that's probably 1/8 of an acre foot. I filled it 1 time this year. I filled it 6 times last year, and I still didn't go over my allotted numbers. Now, I don't know that you guys did anything to it. I can't prove it, but it's a strong thought in my head since I used 3 times the amount of water. And I helped them a lot locate that line. I worked with your surveyors on it. I worked with your construction hands on it. and it looks to me like it's going right through your fence. On the drawing, they have it outside the fence by a couple feet. I don't know any of this for a fact, but I will know in 20 days when I turn my water on, I can close the valve at my property line and see where that water's coming. If the meters are turning and the water's not coming up, it eventually will. It's gonna show.
Like a leak, you're saying.
Yep. So, I mean, these are just the problems that, it started out with when they came in and did the seismic. I know these guys didn't directly do it, but they came in and, I had to leave town, I was out of country. I came back and I found, when I finally did want my fence, which was quite a bit later, they had stuck sticks in between the wire and twisted it down so they could step over it. And this was on every one of their lines. It's still there. I haven't had time to fix it yet. But that was something that shouldn't have happened. The second thing you guys did is you ran that wastewater pipeline through. I went back maybe 3 months later after it had snowed, and that ditch had settled 8 inches to a foot, and it was a trench. So it's not hard to see that that's what it was. And any of my horses would have ran through there, they probably would have broke a leg. Could have killed my horses. I called the gentleman in charge of that pipeline, and he told me, well, I'm done out there. I'm not coming back. He refused to do anything. I had to call Andy. I finally ran Andy's number down, and Andy came out and looked at it and said, yeah, I'll fix it tomorrow. And then we went through the same thing a month later on the reclamation. It was getting ready to snow some more, and I said,
Does this have to do with this well?
well,
I guess what I'm saying, you've been up
this
there.
is why I don't trust Kinder Morgan, and
But
if you don't
we
want to
would
hear
like
that,
answer-
that's fine.
No, I'd like to just answer I mean, it's been 40 minutes, and how many questions?
Well, is time that
Or-
important? Shouldn't we do this right if it takes time?
Yeah, we would, well, if you want your
Huh?
questions answered, finally somebody has to answer the question.
Okay, well, you told me you wanted to sit down and have him answer questions later. I'm giving you everything on my list. You need to make it clear what you want me to do. Do you not want to hear my
questions.
Do you
that
not
have
want to
do
hear
with-
my problems I had with Kinder Morgan? Why I have an attitude that I have?
I want to know what has to do with this well, the questions that have to do with this well.
I think it all has to do with this well. Okay, and another question I have, or another problem I have, is on their permit, it says this well drilling is going to proceed the noise level, the legal noise level. What, am I supposed to just live with this noise? I have to live and sleep in this house. Am I supposed to just not do it because they want to drill a well close to my house? All right.
How far away is the well from his house?
1,039 feet.
And what is the Colorado law, a well from a house?
1,000. From the property line, it's 1,000 feet.
I mean, how many wells could you suggest that have been drilled within 1,000 feet in Weld County from a house? There's 16,000 up there, so 16,000 wells I know. Is there 1,000? Five, but is there more than one?
Oh, absolutely.
But this is Montezuma County. We're here. It would be as fair to talk about well.
Well, it won't turn into well because it's not national So, one of the questions that he wanted to know is the safety. Well, first of all, is there anybody, before we go back to it, is there anybody else that would like to make a public comment? Now's your opportunity. Oh, you all right?
Just a minute, okay. My foot was sound asleep. You know what? You know how it is
Yeah, I
to
know
stand
how
on
that
your
is.
foot that's sound asleep?
You're just lucky it wasn't both of them.
Wow. Okay, that's unusual. Sorry about that. MB McAfee, 22277 County Road 20. And my only comment is that this does seem like a pretty serious issue, and so maybe time doesn't have to be the framing factor for it. The framing factor might be to try to sort out exactly what his questions are about this well, listen carefully to what the concerns are about Kinder Morgan in general that causes him to have these questions and questions of trust, look and see what the contingencies were from planning and zoning and see if things have been met or not. So I really think if you frame it by timing, then I think that's not quite really totally fair. And this afternoon's schedule is not real crowded, I noticed on the agenda. So that's my only comment. And I'll see if I can get back to my
Is there anybody else that would like to make a comment, public comment? All right, we'll close the public comment and we'll see if we can answer the questions now. So, the safety issue, if we could address the safety issue, was this brought up at the Planning and Zoning Board, and has there been a modification about the questions that he was asking about his safety?
We require, I mean, they did was it the H2S plan that was done specifically for, I mean.
The modification to H2S plan
plan
was
was-
to put it halfway between the drill site and the home, and also monitor at Tom's home.
What we require, well, we don't even require, we have them. I mean, they supply us with their site plan, their soil information, emergency response plan, a waste management plan, their O&M procedure, their fire mitigation plan, their weed mitigation plan, their H2S contingency plan, their spill prevention countermeasure plans. Those are all in our file, in our possession. That's what we have. As far as what the state requires, that's what we have to go off of. As far as enforcement, in that regard, I think we're held to, a lot of those were kind of held to the state standard. A lot of things they'll agree to do, that Kinder Morgan themselves can agree to do, and exceed those standards, but the state won't come in and help us if we're asking for more than theirs. Does that make sense? If we're exceeding the state's requirements, the state is not going to come in and help us enforce those things. So hopefully that clarifies.
The state is our go-by. I mean, that's the only thing that's set in place that we can follow at this point.
Is the state rules and regulations?
Yes.
For drilling?
Yes. And safety precautions taken, measures taken.
But all the contingencies that we put in this recommended permit, which, we can change whatever language you'd like to change.
Mr. Hayden, have you seen these contingencies from the planning and zoning, the recommendations that were made?
I'm not sure. If it's a notice I got in the mail, yes.
Would that be right? Do you know if he's read this or not?
He hasn't. This is, I mean, besides what the planning commission has, this is what we do after the meetings. But that's the contingencies that's got listed.
He asked about the flaring. You said that's on the ground, and he wanted to know how high.
How high? 15 feet, 15, 20 feet. It's on the northeast. This particular flare right now is proposed to be on the northeast side of the pad site.
I thought it was on the northwest according to your map.
It's the northeast. If you bring it up.
That's because the map goes this
Yes,
way.
ma'am.
am I missing here?
Um,
Oh, the access, so we've already had that described, which, that's a temporary access right now that you're using to build the compressor station.
Correct.
And then it will be modified, and then they'll all come to the same place where you're gonna build this, or drill the well.
Exactly. It'll be in between the pump station and the Empire switch station. The access road will be.
How about his concerns about his water line and the traffic going over that line?
It's a 2-inch line. We can put, we'll put road plates in place to spread out the weight distribution. So we're not, it's all not concentrated in one spot. But, you know, if we're responsible for any kind of destruction on the irrigation line, we'll fix it immediately. Not when irrigation, not when drilling's done, but immediately.
Would you be comfortable with us putting that in
Absolutely.
Please do,
immediately?
please do.
And the road plates.
Are you okay with that?
And,
Probably not a chair.
yeah, both of them are sure. 'Cause I just wanna say something, because I know this is an issue. Phil Kennedy, Kinder Morgan, the issue with crossing your pipelines, crossing folks' pipelines. First of all, VOR, anything we touch, just I'm going, I've got someplace I'm going. Anything we touch, we get with the VOR and the reclamation folks, and we go and we spot the lines, we know how deep the lines are before we cross, because they don't want us to break the lines either, because there's more than just you, Mr. Hayden, that would be affected if Kinder Morgan were to damage any of those pipelines, all the other farmers that are irrigating on those lands. So we identify those first, and we put people on the ground before we start any construction. The next thing that we'll do is we will oppose, because, let me transgress just a little bit, the folks that built the pump station, though they are Kinder Morgan, they're transportation or pipeline people. They're not this group here that responds, that lives next door to you, that has to answer your questions and mitigate your fears. So they kind of came in and gunslingered Texas, and I apologize for that behavior when they came up here and were behaving like that, the guys that did the seismic work. Those were people that we didn't have direct control of. This we have direct control of. So this is how we're going to address your issue with your pipeline. Before we cross your pipeline, they'll put people on the ground, we'll identify exactly how deep it is. I will have the engineers that's what we do for a living is pipelines. We'll address that, how much load capacity are we, and what is it going to take to protect that line? Because we don't want to break the water line, because that's a pain for me, and that's really puts you out of a place. So right now we're saying that road plates are what we're going to do, but it might be a combination of putting 3 foot of fill on top of that, crossing, and road plates, whatever it takes to protect your pipeline. Because this isn't our first rodeo. This isn't the first time we had to cross somebody's pipeline. And we didn't want to damage your pipeline. So
Okay, so I say there's 3 foot, but you guys have overlotted that. You came in and did an overlot. I had 3 foot through the farm.
yes, sir.
We may have 6 foot on one side, we may have 2 foot, 1 foot on the other side. So I didn't look at your drawings to see how you were gonna cut that overlot for the pad for
Yes.
the, pump house. But I don't even know right now if I have enough cover on that pipe, on, my pipe to work.
We'll identify it, and we'll make sure that you have enough pipe.
You'll
enough dirt.
identify everything they did?
Yes, sir. Because we're responsible. If I'm going to put a pad along the edge of that, because remember, I'm going to pull that all back. I'm going to build a 5-acre pad, but then I'm going to pull it back to 180 by 200 square, a teardrop, a .87 set around that well site. There's just going to be that. It's not going to be that big landing pad that's going to be there when it's done. We're going to pull it back to .87 acres, and that's what you're going to have as a teardrop location. So when we build it, we're going to pull it back. So we're going to have material and stuff that we need to do to put back what we disturb across your line so that you can still operate. Because our business isn't to put you out of business. That's not
Okay,
really
so-
what we're trying to do.
So you're gonna go check their whole overlot area where my pipe runs through and make sure the elevations did not change on the dirt? You can tell me that or correct it?
We can correct the elevation so they're
Well,
not so much.
no, you're missing something. If it's overlotted, it's where it needs to be. If there's only 1 foot on this side and it's on grade, what are you gonna do? Put a big lump?
I think that's what he said, for where they're crossing the pipeline. Is that what you're talking about, or are you talking about the pad?
The pipeline runs kinda with the pad.
Yes, sir.
And if the pad started out like this, and they brought it up level to work off of it, they may have had to cut. If you look on your drawings, it shows where you cut,
Some of the cuts and fills there.
on the berms and where you add on the berms. So I don't know if this is a fact, but it's something that certainly could have happened that was overlooked before.
saying you don't have enough cover on your pipeline.
I'm not saying I don't have enough cover, I'm
But you're
saying it's
there could be.
possible.
Yeah, there could be.
Yes.
Right.
At
So-
this point in time,
So I'm just giving you a heads up. We need to look at this stuff before you start driving tons of trucks over it and thousands of kips on a 2-inch pipe. Just doesn't.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. I completely understand.
No.
Norman Utley is lead.
And I have no problem with you guys moving that pipe if you have to too, if it's done before I need the water. Like I said, I think from looking at it, it looks to me like the pipe is going through that fenced area. But supposedly from the surveyor's map, which they usually don't stamp something that's not right. But that doesn't mean a contractor that was doing something didn't move it, or if they hit it.
Do you know if there's a tracer line in there, not to get off technical?
No, they were gonna put a tracer line in when they located it, and they didn't do it. So. All right, so my main concern was safety. If I have a safety problem, who do I go to?
Well, you can go first of all to the manager on the rig, and if you're unsatisfied with what's happening on the rig, you can call me or Andy.
Okay, well, I probably won't go over to an operating rig.
There's the safety trailer, there's a guy there, the company man will be there at the trailer, and he's really in charge of the location. So if you have a concern with noise, something that's going on, the guy right there at the trailer, the company man will be right there. And if you're not satisfied with asking that guy a question, then you can, if you don't wanna go, you can call Andy or myself.
And is there a way I can find out about the procedures? If you have a fire, if you hit something, if you hit H2S or something's coming through, what the procedure is, so you guys are out doing what you need to do, and I'm standing in my house going, the hell am I supposed to do?
She, answer that.
I will print you off, everything that I just
So
told you. that
there
we
are
have.
procedures for that,
Oh,
for residents.
You'll have plenty of reading material.
Okay.
To you.
Okay.
You have the venting plan?
Yes.
So you please provide him the venting plan, because that's how we'll approach venting.
Okay.
If it works for him. Or anybody else in the neighborhood that would like to have that venting or H2S plans we submit for public record, be glad and we can answer any questions.
Okay, and if you guys are gonna monitor the air like they suggested, who will do it? Will you hire a third party?
Yeah, we always hire a third party. Kinder Morgan does not do their own air monitoring just for liabilities. So Dean Safety is actually the group that monitors that. Their equipment is the equipment that we use, the NOAA weather stations that do the dispersion modeling for the CO2 or H2S dispersions. Those NOAA emergency models are loaded in and they're live data on the rig 24/7. And then there's point and watch monitoring around, and if there were to be a venting event, prior to any venting event, they move out within a mile radius, and there's a radius of exposure, and you can see what that is. And if we're going to, they're gonna knock on your door and say, Mr. Hayden, we plan on venting this location.
Okay, and whoever sets this stuff up, will they have time to show me what they're doing?
Because they're gonna set one in front of your house.
Okay.
They'll
And
show you exactly
they
what
will
they're doing.
explain what I need to do,
They'll
and,
show you on your computer and explain to you, and if you don't wanna stay there, they'll offer you a place in town, whatever that needs, whatever your comfortable is. And if you decide to stay there, there will be a guy standing at your house during.
no, I'm not gonna stay if there's any chemicals or any hazards. I'm gone.
Well, they'll offer you a
And
place.
he won't even have to tell me that.
Yeah.
Is that recorded? Is there a record of the monitoring?
Yes, there is. It's live 24/7 as they monitor.
But
anything.
archive, I mean, so
Yes,
we
it
can
is.
look back and see.
We can go back and we can look at any date and time
Thank you.
during well operations. We can look at any of that data that was released. And we use a third party that's actually, the third party is actually, they calibrate their own instrumentation. It's not Kinder Morgan, so that if someone says, hey, did you do it? There's somebody else's file for that monitoring. They can't do that. Kinder Morgan.
Is that what you guys did?
Okay.
Is there anybody else before I close the public comment that would like to speak?
Gail Epoch again. I just want to say that all of the assurances sound real good, but last summer when I got gassed, I called Kinder Morgan and just their regular number because I wasn't aware of what was going on. I just knew something was wrong, and I got a voicemail, and so I called Kinder Morgan's emergency line and talk to somebody who didn't have a clue as to what was going on. By that time, I realized I was not feeling well, so I just left. This is how it actually happens.
I'm not familiar with that incident at all.
That was, there was a complaint to COGCC. You can call them and read my complaint if you like. I'm sure they have it.
That's fine.
Okay. Anybody else before I close the public comment period? Okay, at this time, I'd like to close the public comment, and we'll go to Commissioner Lambert.
All the questions I had have been answered, I think. I don't have anything further.
On the air monitoring, no, am I hearing this right? There's gonna be one at his house and then one halfway in the middle, or what was the?
Both, and then at the drill site.
Yes.
Oh, so there's three.
Yes.
Three, correct.
Okay.
And that monitor for, because she had mentioned the VOCs.
For gas,
Okay. I just want to make
H2S,
sure.
CO2, LEL, and oxygen.
What's LEL?
Lower explosive limit hydrocarbons, which we call lower explosive limits. Hydrocarbon emissions into the atmosphere.
Do you feel that the Planning and Zoning Board addressed Mr. Hammond's, or not Hammond, Hayden's concerns with the things that they put in, the modifications?
Yes, especially with, again, with the purview that we actually have and the things that we can do and with the agreements that we can make, you know, and that Kinder Morgan is amiable to do, I believe we've done our best here. I will add that language into before you sign the permit, if you decide to do so. I will change a little bit of that language in the contingencies to fit a little bit more the discussion that you had today. But again, I mean, I can't express enough. If anything's not happening like Mr. Hayden I did not know that there was a problem with sound, or so if we don't know it's broke, we can't fix it. I mean, that's very important for us, because a lot of times we hear it on the backside when it's too late.
And that's a different issue versus
Correct.
what we're doing here today, but yet it is an issue.
I'm just saying,
Right.
if during this process there is an issue, if you decide to approve the permit, we need to know. May I go change the language?
Yes. How long will it take to drill the well?
40 days.
40 days?
And right now, we don't have a defined date when that date would be. Sometime in 17th is the plan.
Oh, so it's not even this year, it's next year.
We're trying to make sure we got all our ducks in a row, so we're ready to go when it's time.
Mr. Hayden made one other comment. He said that the sound, the decimal would be greater than what is the standard for, do you know what he's talking about there?
I believe he was referring to the pump station, as far as the.
No, I don't
sound.
know.
During drilling operation.
During drilling? Well, yeah, we will exceed that threshold during drilling operations, that's true.
In that 40-day period.
Yes.
So, I know that you're trying to keep this separate, the pump station from the well. But you permitted the pump station, and it had a certain noise level. And your representative said that he would not be able to hear it from his house. So now he can hear it from his house. I was out there this morning, I could hear it from his driveway.
from Kinder Morgan's perspective is, well, I'll send someone out there, I'll send a safety guy out there with sound monitoring, but evidently we're not trusted, so your next recourse is call Steve Lebowski or somebody with the COGCC and say, Steve, I think these guys are exceeding the COGC threshold standard, and that they agree to, and would you please send somebody from the state to come monitor the location, because that's your recourse, to hold us into line.
On your permit, it said that noise was not a problem, that it would not exceed.
And I wouldn't think it would be, but if it is bothering you, then it is bothering you, and so I think that's our next step is to say, you know, I'll send someone out there, but I think that you should have the COGCC defend you as a citizen and say, hey, they're gonna monitor, would you please send somebody out here with a monitor to monitor? That's their job, is to hold us to the task.
Okay, but it's also your job to, if you say you're not gonna have, exceed the noise,
Yes,
you're
sir.
not exceeding.
Yes, sir, I agree. Yes, sir, I agree. That's why I'm gonna send somebody out there to say, okay, what's happening, because that's not what you told me, now I'm having to explain
Okay,
this.
I've had this problem with compressors before on jobs I worked on, and we put extra liners on the one wall where the noise is coming out.
And they could put sound dampening material inside that, because you wouldn't think they look like a big horizontal water pump, like for a water station is what they look like. They're just big. They're not a typical piston type compressor.
Well, if they make the noise go away,
monitored for.
Oh, well,
Okay.
he just said there's 4 types.
Can I borrow your cell just for a second?
Yeah.
4 types of gases.
We got to have a number, special use permit.
It's
High
high
Oh, it
impact
doesn't have a
permit.
special use.
Oh, it doesn't have it.
The same, high impact is the same as the special use permit?
No, they're different. There should be a different number. Well, we're kind of on hold here for just a second. We're getting a number, and they're doing some modification to the,
The 4
The
kinds
permit.
of gases, is that what you're looking at right now?
Right,
Yes.
she just wanted to
Put it
make that the
specifically in
requirement,
that.
because we
And
only
I
have
only
2 in there.
I only have 3. I only wrote down 3 when you
Right,
started.
I couldn't read it. What-
And
what she
H2O.
changed.
I believe it's,
CO2, LEL, which is hydrocarbons, and oxygen.
Oh, oxygen, plain old oxygen. O2.
Do you get complaints about oxygen sometimes?
Not enough, too much?
I guess it could go too low. That means that air is filled with something else maybe.
do you know what the special use permit number is? Kim, does it show that on yours?
It doesn't show it.
Because that's the only thing holding us up to,
Are LELs the same as CO2?
LEL stands for lower explosive level. And it generally refers to methane.
Oh, in general, methane, yeah, okay.
we're about there.
So you don't make any or would that, we're not being onto it.
VOC is the same thing as LEL? That's volatile organic compound?
Changed it.
Well, it's the same thing.
Oh,
I just wanna make sure you guys are.
Yeah,
Okay.
hydrocarbons.
Yeah, it's organic.
this isn't,
Yes.
both parties are in agreement to that.
And VOC is a measurement of the volatile organic
You would
compound.
like to know what the special
Special use permit.
Hydrocarbon organic compound,
It's the same.
yes.
Oh, it's the same, Commissioner.
We're changing systems and.
Okay, so when I say VOCs, I mention
We
things
need to,
like
Polyolene
Yes,
polyene,
benzene,
sir.
benzene, yeah, xylene, so does that monitor?
that would be an explosive, that's explosive atmosphere. If it's
Is this
present
gonna be
with
written as
H2S or
one permit?
with
or
natural
2
gas.
permits?
Yeah, I put, if you just
That's what we monitor for, is LEL.
right there,
That's the monitor that we have. We don't have to
on
like
that
a benzene
page,
monitor.
it says, if you go into page 4, just start reading in here, and then go into your contingencies
And not
here.
level, not
But
level.
not, doesn't tell
Then
you what's actually.
No, ma'am.
All right, are we ready? I'll move that we approve the application for high impact permit and special use permit number 6 671 from Kinder Morgan CO2 Company.
What about those amendments? Contingent on,
With the contingencies that have been added to it, the permit application.
Do you want to read them?
It's good enough, they're attached, really.
yeah. Second, there's been a motion and a second to approve the high impact permit number 671 with the contingencies. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.